Oh, how the mighty have fallen, or in this case, how the primitive have risen. Ambassador Thaddeus Blackwood straightened his tie for the 100th time as he stared out the viewport of his diplomatic shuttle. The massive crystalline structure of Nexus Station loomed before him, its iridescent spires reflecting the light of 3 nearby suns. If the aliens were trying to compensate for something with the size of their space station, well, they were doing a spectacular job. "Sir," his pilot called back, "the HFY traffic controller is requesting we wait another 30 minutes for clearance. They claim our primitive fusion drives might interfere with their quantum-aligned landing systems." Blackwood pinched the bridge of his nose. "Remind them, Lieutenant Phillips, that according to Galactic Convention Article 7, Subsection 3, diplomatic vessels have priority clearance, and do mention that our primitive fusion drives are more than capable of maintaining position without their precious guidance systems." "Yes, sir," Phillips replied, barely concealing his grin, though they might need that explained in smaller words. It had been exactly 2 years since humanity had stumbled onto the galactic stage. Well, stumbled was putting it politely. We'd actually caught one of their scout ships trying to hack our satellite network. The resulting diplomatic incident had been interesting, especially when we traced the hack back to its source and showed up on their doorstep with a flotilla of warships, demanding explanations. The look on the Zarkak's ambassador's face when we crashed their secret observation post had been priceless. Turns out they'd been watching us for decades, confident in their technological superiority. They just hadn't counted on humanity's paranoia and our tendency to over-engineer everything, including our cybersecurity. Now here they were, Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council, ready to take their seat among the stars. If only the stars would stop treating them like children who'd wandered into the adult's room by accident. The shuttle's comm crackled again. "Earth vessel," a condescending voice drawled, "you are cleared for docking bay 47Z. Please follow the guidelines exactly. We wouldn't want your basic sensors to miss them." "Acknowledged," Phillips responded professionally, though Blackwood could see his jaw clenching. "Though I should mention our basic sensors are currently picking up 3 maintenance issues in your primary docking array that your systems seem to have missed. Transmitting the data now. Wouldn't want any accidents, would we?" Blackwood allowed himself a small smile as silence filled the comm channel. Sometimes the best way to handle condescension was to show them exactly why they shouldn't underestimate you. Though as he watched the massive station grow closer, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be a very long assignment. If only he knew just how short it would actually be. The Grand Council chamber was exactly what you'd expect from a civilization trying desperately to prove how advanced they were. All swooping architecture and floating platforms with enough holographic displays to give a Vegas casino an inferiority complex. Ambassador Blackwood stood at the center of it all, maintaining his diplomatic smile as the Zarkak's representative Decorix finished his speech. "And while we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm," Decorix's mandibles clicked in what passed for their species' version of a condescending smirk, "we must consider the technological and cultural requirements for full council membership, perhaps in another century or 2. Blackwood's aide, Dr. Lyra Chen, passed him a datapad, her expression carefully neutral. The human delegation had expected this, of course. They'd also planned for it. "Honored representatives," Blackwood began, his deep voice carrying naturally through the chamber, "I've sat here patiently for 3 hours listening to various species explain why humanity isn't ready for full membership. You've cited our primitive technology, our aggressive tendencies, and our limited understanding of galactic politics." He paused, letting his gaze sweep the chamber. "But not one of you has mentioned what happened 6 months ago in the Proxima Centauri system." The chamber grew noticeably quieter. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably in their gravity-suspended seats. "When the hive mind of Vector 9 attacked that mining colony, Earth was the closest responder. Our primitive ships were the ones that evacuated 3,000 of your citizens. Our aggressive military was the one that held the line until your forces arrived, and our limited understanding didn't stop us from negotiating a peaceful resolution that saved lives on both sides." The High Chancellor, a towering meridian with crystalline features, leaned forward. "Ambassador Blackwood, while your species' actions were admirable, one incident hardly." "One incident," Blackwood smiled, but there was steel behind it. Dr. Chen, please share the data package. Holographic displays flickered throughout the chamber as information began streaming across them. In the past 2 years, Blackwood continued, Earth ships have responded to 37 distress calls in our sector. We've provided humanitarian aid to 12 worlds, prevented 3 interspecies conflicts through mediation, and contributed 17 new medical treatments to the galactic database, all while being treated as children playing at politics. You claim technological superiority, he pressed on, yet it was human engineers who identified the fatal flaw in the Nexus Station's quantum shield matrix last month, a flaw that could have killed everyone aboard. You speak of cultural requirements, but I don't see any other species running aid missions to non-member worlds simply because help is needed. The chamber had grown deathly quiet now. Even Decorix's mandibles had stopped their incessant clicking. Humanity doesn't ask for membership because we need it. We ask because you need us. We're not here to prove ourselves to you. We're here to work together for a better galaxy. The question isn't whether we're ready for full membership, it's whether you're ready to admit you've been wrong about us. As Blackwood finished, several representatives began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of alien languages. The High Chancellor called for order, announcing a recess for deliberation. Later that evening, as Blackwood made his way through the diplomatic quarter, his secure comm chirped. Ambassador, Dr. Chen's voice came through. I've found something concerning in the Council's private communications. Could you meet me in your office? The transmission cut off abruptly. Blackwood quickened his pace, his hand brushing the small personal shield generator in his pocket, a primitive human device that had saved his life twice already. He rounded the corner to his office corridor just as the lights flickered and died, plunging the section into darkness. Dr. Chen, he called out, reaching for the shield generator. Status report. The only response was a soft hissing sound and the faint smell of ozone. Blackwood's last thought, as he felt his muscles beginning to seize up, was that perhaps he'd made his point a little too well. 4 hours later, Dr. Chen bypassed the locked door to the ambassador's office, following standard protocol after losing contact. The scene inside made her blood run cold. Ambassador Blackwood lay sprawled across his desk, a dark burn mark on his chest. The office bore no signs of struggle, but the air still carried that distinctive ozone tang. She reached for her comm unit, then hesitated. The security cameras in the corridor had all mysteriously malfunctioned. The station's internal sensors showed no unauthorized entries. Even the ambassador's own security systems had been disabled with suspicious precision. Before she could decide her next move, the office door slid open again. 3 Nexus security officers entered, led by Chief Inspector Vaxilier of the Zarkax Federation. A terrible accident, Vaxilier announced without preamble, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Preliminary investigation suggests the ambassador's primitive personal shield device malfunctioned catastrophically. These things happen with inferior technology. Dr. Chen's expression remained perfectly composed, even as her hand tightened around the data chip she'd recovered from Blackwood's personal terminal. Of course, she replied smoothly. I'll need to inform Earth Command immediately. Oh, we've already handled that, Vaxilier said, his tone almost gleeful. Standard protocols for technological accidents, you understand. The body will be processed according to Council regulations, of course. Nothing to be done. As she was escorted from the office, Dr. Chen allowed herself a small, grim smile. They really didn't understand humans at all, did they? Because if there was one thing guaranteed to unite Earth's fractious nations, it was the death of one of our own, and these idiots had just given us a martyr. The emergency council session was proceeding exactly as expected, which is to say, with all the efficiency of a 3-legged tortoise trying to climb a greased water slide. And furthermore, droned Representative Kalax of the Meridian Collective, any investigation must follow proper protocols. We suggest forming a committee to study the formation of a task force to examine the possibility of launching an inquiry. The chamber doors slammed open with a thunderous boom. Admiral Victoria Steele strode in, her dress whites immaculate, her cybernetic eye glowing a menacing red. The EFS Hyperion, Earth's newest dreadnought, had dropped out of FTL an hour ago, positioning itself rather conspicuously close to the station's main reactor. With all due respect to the honored council, Steele's voice dripped with enough sarcasm to fill a small ocean. Earth's patience has limits. Ambassador Blackwood is dead. Our investigation begins now. High Chancellor Zixatal rose from his crystalline throne. Admiral Steele, this is most irregular. The Council has procedures. The Council has 48 hours, Steele interrupted, her cybernetic eye scanning the room. Either cooperate with our investigation or we'll conduct one ourselves. And trust me, you won't enjoy our methods. Dr. Chen stepped forward from behind the Admiral, holding up a holographic projector. We've already discovered some interesting anomalies. Would the Council care to explain why the security footage from 6 different cameras experienced simultaneous malfunctions exactly 2 minutes before the ambassador's death? The Zarkax representative's mandibles clicked rapidly, their species equivalent of nervous sweating. Technical glitches are not uncommon. Funny thing about that, Chen continued, her smile razor-sharp. The timestamp metadata shows the footage was altered using a very specific encryption key, one registered to the Zarkax diplomatic corps. The chamber erupted in chaos. Various species began shouting, some in outrage, others in obvious panic. Admiral Steele just stood there, watching it all with the patient expression of a predator, waiting for its prey to tire itself out. Order, the High Chancellor's voice boomed through the chamber. These are serious accusations. Representative Decorix, what say you to these charges? The Zarkax representative rose slowly, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. These are clearly fabricated allegations. The humans are simply using this tragic accident to force their way into... Oh, shut up, Steele cut him off. Dr. Chen, show them what we found in the ambassador's personal files. A new hologram appeared, showing encrypted communications between several Zarkax officials. As the messages played out, the chamber grew deathly quiet. The final message was particularly damning. The humans must not be allowed full membership. Their rate of advancement threatens the established order. Take care of it. No traces. Well, Admiral Steele's voice was dangerously soft. Would anyone else like to lecture us about proper procedures? The Arcturian representative, a being of living plasma contained in an environmental suit, floated forward. Perhaps we can reach a compromise. The Arcturian Confederation would be willing to mediate. The time for meditation was before you killed our ambassador, Steele replied. Now we require justice. Dr. Chen activated another hologram, this one showing the Hyperion sensor readings. We've detected quantum signature residue matching Zarkax assassination devices, the same type used in 3 other accidents involving reform-minded diplomats in the past year. The Meridian representative quickly stood. Now let's not be hasty. War would be devastating for all parties. Perhaps we could establish a joint commission. Of course, Steele smiled, though it never reached her eyes. We're reasonable people. We'll give you 24 hours to turn over those responsible for Ambassador Blackwood's murder. After that, she let the threat hang in the air. Various species began huddling together, forming quick alliances and counter-alliances. The Arcturians were already drafting a neutrality declaration. The Meridians were quietly distancing themselves from the Zarkax, and the Zarkax, well, they were doing what any guilty party does when caught trying to spread the blame. You don't understand, Decorix finally burst out. The humans, their advancement rate is unprecedented. In 2 years, they've achieved what took other species decades. If they gain full membership, the power balance will shift, Steele finished for him. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You're afraid of change, afraid that humans might actually make things better. Well, congratulations, you've just guaranteed that change is coming, one way or another. The High Chancellor raised his crystalline hands. Admiral Steele, please, give us time to investigate this properly. We can establish an emergency committee. 24 hours, Steele repeated, turning to leave. Oh, and one more thing. She paused at the door. The Hyperion isn't alone. We launched our entire Third Fleet the moment we lost contact with the ambassador. They'll be here in exactly 25 hours, just something to consider while you're forming your committees. As the humans left, the chamber descended into frantic discussions. Species that had looked down on humanity just days ago were now scrambling to choose sides. The Zarkax delegation was already trying to sneak out through a side entrance. In the corridor, Dr. Chen turned to Admiral Steele. Think they'll comply? The Admiral's cybernetic eye flashed. Doesn't matter. We already have enough evidence to justify what's coming. They killed our ambassador Lyra. Now they get to learn why that was the worst mistake they could have made. Behind them, the council chamber continued its frantic debate. not realizing that their time had already run out. Because while they'd been busy forming committees and drafting proposals, humanity had been preparing for war. And we're very, very good at war. The 24-hour deadline expired with the predictability of a bad political joke. The Zarkaks, of course, had tried to run. Unfortunately for them, they'd never dealt with an angry human fleet before. "This is Fleet Admiral Marcus Zhang of the Earth Defense Force." The transmission cut across all frequencies, broadcasting in every known galactic language. "To the Zarkaks vessels attempting to flee through the Gamma 7 corridor, that would be extremely unwise." Right on cue, 30 Earth warships dropped out of FTL, their primitive weapons already locked on target. The Zarkaks ships froze like teenagers caught sneaking out past curfew. "Oh, and to the council members who thought they could delete their communications logs," Zhang continued, his voice carrying the kind of pleasant tone that usually preceded someone having a very bad day. "You really should learn more about human encryption methods, Dr. Chen." The data burst that followed was beautiful in its thoroughness. Communications logs, financial transactions, encrypted messages, all showing how various council members had not only known about the plot against Ambassador Blackwood, but had actively supported it. The Zarkaks might have pulled the trigger, but half the council had loaded the gun. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. The Meridians immediately declared neutrality, about 4 hours too late. The Arcturians began powering up their defensive systems. Fat lot of good that would do them. And the Zarkaks, well, they did what any cornered bully does, they lashed out. The first shots were fired near the station's commercial sector. A Zarkaks cruiser, probably hoping to use civilian traffic as cover, opened fire on the EFS Hyperion. What followed was a masterclass in why you don't pick fights with species that spent most of their history perfecting the art of war. Admiral Steele's response was surgical. The Hyperion's point defense systems intercepted every shot while her fighters executed a maneuver that, according to all known physics models, should have been impossible. The Zarkaks crew had about 2 seconds to realize their mistake before their ship's engines mysteriously stopped working. "Impossible!" The Zarkaks fleet commander's transmission was filled with static and panic. "Their targeting systems shouldn't be able to penetrate our quantum shields." "Fun fact," Steele's voice came back, dripping with satisfaction. "We don't use targeting systems. Our gunners are actual humans who train specifically for manual targeting. Hard to hack a Mark I eyeball, isn't it?" The battle that followed was less a military engagement and more a demonstration of why humanity's primitive approach to warfare was so terrifyingly effective. While the Zarkaks relied on automated systems and AI targeting, human crews adapted and improvised. When their quantum jammers failed to disable Earth's ships, they learned that humans had maintained manual backup systems for everything, because we never really trusted automation in the first place. "Status report," Zhang demanded as the first wave of skirmishes ended. 17 Zarkaks vessels disabled, his tactical officer reported. "No casualties on either side, though I think we've severely wounded their pride, sir." "Good, send the second ultimatum." The council chamber, which had been watching the battle through their superior observation systems, fell silent as Zhang's hologram appeared before them. "In the past 6 hours we've demonstrated 2 things," he began. "First, that your technological superiority isn't quite as superior as you thought. Second, that we can disable your ships without destroying them. That's called restraint, something you apparently thought we lacked." The High Chancellor stepped forward. "Admiral Zhang, surely we can—" "No, you can't, not anymore. Here are our terms. The Zarkaks Federation will surrender those responsible for Ambassador Blackwood's murder. The council members who supported this assassination will resign, and humanity will be granted full membership, not because we need it, but because you need a reminder that technological advancement doesn't equal moral advancement." "And if we refuse?" the Zarkaks representative's voice quavered. Zhang smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Then you'll learn why every human child knows the story of the Trojan horse. Did you really think the ships we're showing you are our entire fleet?" As if on cue, sensor alerts began blaring throughout the station. Hundreds of small signatures appeared, emerging from hidden positions throughout the system. Earth's primitive stealth technology had just made a mockery of the most advanced detection systems in known space. "We could have started with this," Zhang continued, "could have destroyed your ships, your station, even your homeworlds, but we didn't, because that's not who we are. We're giving you a choice, justice or war. Choose wisely." The council chamber erupted in a frenzy of activity. Species that had looked down on humanity just days ago were now frantically calculating how quickly they could establish diplomatic relations with Earth. The Zarkax delegation, seeing the writing on the wall, began offering up names and evidence, each trying to save their own exoskeletons. "Sir," Admiral Steele's voice came through on a private channel, "the Arcturian ambassador is requesting a private meeting, says he has information about other species who might have been planning similar accidents." Zhang nodded. "The dominoes fall. Keep the fleet at ready status, Admiral. Something tells me we're about to learn just how deep this conspiracy really goes." As the galactic power structure began its rapid reorganization, Zhang allowed himself a moment of reflection. Humanity had never wanted war. But if there's one thing humans had learned through their long, bloody history, it's that sometimes the only way to keep the peace is to be very, very good at war. And now the galaxy was learning that lesson too. The Zarkax High Command made their final stand exactly where everyone expected, behind a massive fleet of automated warships near Nexus Station. What nobody expected was how spectacularly it would fail. "Predictable," Admiral Steele muttered as she watched the enemy formation. "They're relying on their quantum-linked combat AI again. Lieutenant Joe, show them why that's a mistake." Joe grinned, her fingers dancing across her primitive manual control station. "Remember that virus we discovered in our satellites 2 years ago, the one they used to spy on us? Well, we didn't just study it, we improved it." The Zarkax fleet's formations were perfect, their movements synchronized with machine precision, right up until Joe pressed a single button, and 2 years of careful programming came to fruition. Suddenly, their perfectly coordinated fleet turned into the galaxy's most expensive demolition derby. "Their AI network just crashed," Joe reported, trying not to laugh. "They're trying to switch to manual control, but they've relied on automation for so long they barely remember how," Steele finished. "Launch fighters. Let's show them how humans do it." What followed was less a battle and more an object lesson in why you should never underestimate primitive species. Human fighters, piloted by actual humans who trained in real combat conditions, danced through the chaos of the disabled Zarkax fleet. Their outdated ballistic weapons bypassed quantum shields, designed to stop energy weapons. Their simple radio communications couldn't be hacked like the quantum networks. On the Hyperion's bridge, Admiral Steele watched as the Zarkax leadership vessel tried to retreat. "Not this time. All ships, execute maneuver Thermopylae." The human fleet split into smaller groups, a tactic that seemed suicidal until you realized what they were doing. Each group took up position at specific gravitational points around the station, creating a complex web of overlapping fields that trapped the Zarkax ships like flies in amber. "Impossible!" The Zarkax Supreme Commander's transmission crackled through. "Your ships can't maintain those positions without AI assistance." "Ever hear of the ancient Greek phalanx?" Steele replied. "Humans have been perfecting formation tactics for thousands of years. We just adapted them for space. Old solutions for new problems. That's kind of our thing." The final confrontation took place in the Zarkax command ship's bridge, where Fleet Admiral Zhang personally led the boarding party. They found the Supreme Commander destroying data crystals in a panic. "Looking for these," Zhang held up a set of identical crystals. "We already copied everything, including your real reason for wanting to keep humanity out of the Council." The Supreme Commander's mandibles clicked in defeat. "You don't understand. Your species. You advanced too quickly. Look what you did in just 2 years. You took our virus and improved it. You adapted ancient battle tactics for space warfare. You even turned our own gravitational technology against us." "That's what humans do," Zhang replied calmly. "We adapt, we learn, we improve, but that's not what really scared you, was it? Show them, Dr. Chen." The holographic display activated, showing a human medical facility. "While you were all watching our military," Chen explained, "you missed what we were really working on. We've nearly perfected cellular regeneration. We're close to cracking faster-than-light communications, and our research into quantum consciousness transfer could revolutionize how all species approach mortality." "You would share such technologies?" a council member who had accompanied the boarding party asked incredulously. "Of course," Zhang answered. "That's the other thing about humans. We believe advancement should benefit everyone, which is why you tried to stop us, isn't it, Supreme Commander?" Because we wouldn't play your game of hoarding technology and maintaining artificial hierarchies. The Supreme Commander slumped in defeat. The established order, the power structure we built over millennia, you would destroy it all. No, Zhang corrected. We'll improve it, that's what you really feared. Not that we would destroy civilization, but that we would make it better, and that the other species would realize they didn't need to fear change. As the arrest teams led away the Zarkak's leadership, Zhang looked out at the aftermath of the battle. Disabled ships were being assisted by human vessels, their crews being rescued by the very people they'd tried to destroy. Because that was the final lesson humanity had to teach the galaxy. True strength isn't about maintaining power. It's about knowing when to use it, and when to extend a helping hand instead, even to those who tried to kill you. The emergency council session began differently than any before it, with silence. No grandiose speeches, no procedural debates, just the quiet contemplation of species who'd learned a very expensive lesson about underestimating humanity. The terms are simple, Admiral Steele announced, standing where Ambassador Blackwood had stood just days ago. Earth doesn't want revenge, we want change. The holographic displays activated, showing a new organizational structure for the Council. Gone were the artificial hierarchies based on technological advancement. In their place, a system that evaluated species based on their contributions to galactic civilization, whether those contributions were in art, science, philosophy, or peacekeeping. We're establishing a joint technological exchange program, Dr. Chen explained. Every species shares their advancements. Every species benefits. The age of hoarding knowledge ends today. The Arcturian representative's plasma form pulsed with what seemed like approval. And the Zarkaks will have a chance to earn their way back, Steele answered, just like everyone else. That's the human way. We remember our enemies, but we're not opposed to them becoming friends, eventually. The council chambers, once a monument to alien superiority, had been transformed. The floating platforms were gone, replaced by a circular arrangement where all species sat at the same level. Even the High Chancellor's crystalline throne had been melted down, reforged into a simple memorial plaque. At the memorial service for Ambassador Blackwood, representatives from every species attended. They watched in respectful silence as his aide, Dr. Chen, spoke of his vision for the future. Thaddeus didn't just believe in humanity's potential, she said, her voice carrying through the chamber. He believed in the potential of all species to rise above their fears and prejudices. He died because some feared that vision. He lives on because we'll make it reality. Fleet Admiral Zhang added the final touch, a new tradition. Each species would send their brightest young diplomats to Earth for training, to learn not just about humanity, but about how different cultures could work together. The first class would be named in Blackwood's honor. The galaxy expected us to respond to assassination with destruction, Zhang addressed the assembly. Instead, we're responding with education, with cooperation, with hope. That's the real strength of humanity, not our ability to wage war, but our desire to make peace worth keeping. As the new council took their seats for the first time, a message played on all communication channels throughout known space. It was Ambassador Blackwood's final speech, the one he never got to give. The stars don't care about our divisions. The universe doesn't recognize our artificial boundaries. We can remain divided and stagnant, or we can unite and reach heights none of us could achieve alone. The choice is yours, but know this, humanity will lead the way whether you follow or not. Looking around the chamber at the faces of former enemies now turned allies, at the mingling of species once separated by arbitrary technological tiers, it was clear which choice they'd made, and somewhere Ambassador Thaddeus Blackwood was smiling.